So welcome everyone, and I am really happy for anyone who's here because it's a very important class that we have today, and it's pretty fundamental, and it meets us in every different aspects of our lives. But before I start the class, I want to start with an avodah that I had with myself this Purim, and just like things I discovered about myself that are really incredible, because the more I could discover, the more we all discover about ourselves, the more we know what parts we need to work on and what parts need developing, and how I can get on to the next level. If anyone has a question, please, let me know, raise your hand, just chime in, and I'll stop the recording because your input is invaluable to me. So this Purim was my first Purim in Tel Aviv. And I really didn't know what to expect. And I had two things that I wanted to do. One is I wanted to find a really nice reading of the Megillah. And two, I had a plan that I wanted to make mishlochei manot for my whole building, which is 30 families, and not really focus on anyone else outside of the building, because I find myself living in a building and not really knowing anyone, because people just go from their home to the elevator down to the car, and I don't really get to meet anyone. And it's not that I'm lonely, but I would love to know the people I'm living around and what their family's like and what they're dealing with and how they live. And just, it interests me. And then I don't feel so disconnected. So in my husband's shul, I heard that the Megillah reading is with a lot of Haman and noisy and loud. And I said, you know what? It's not for me. So let me go to the old age home next to me. And I heard that they have a reading, and it's a quiet reading, because I really wanted to savor the Megillah and feel it and connect to it. So I go to the old age home, and a Chabad guy is reading for them, and he read really, really fast. I felt like I was breathless when he was reading. It was fast, and I couldn't absorb it in me. But also I was fasting, so I wasn't complaining much. And I thought to myself, I'm not going there in the morning. And I told my husband, how many readings do you have in your shul? He said, there's 2 readings, one at 6:30 and one at 8:30. So I decided to come to the 6:30 reading. And when I came to the 6:30 reading, the Chazan read it as if someone was running after him. And it was fast, and he read it very well with the te'amim, but just fast. And I was so enraged. I was triggered. I was like, these are the 2 readings that I had, and I'm coming to my husband's shul, and the guy is a really nice chazan, and he's reading like someone is running after him. And, what is this? Why are you reading so fast? Why are you trying to get it over with? What do we usually try to do fast and to get it over with? We usually try to do things that are not pleasant for us, and we try to do it fast and to just finish it, or to just like check it off. And I couldn't look at the Chazan in the face. I was the only woman. And when he finished, everyone came over to him and said, oh, great, thank you. You had such a great reading. And I just wanted to explode on him and say, like, you actually call that a reading? You read as if someone was running after you. You read as if, if you weren't going to read it fast, someone was going to kill you. What's the point? And then I realized that the rage that I felt and the triggering that I felt meant that there's an avodah within me that I need to do, that it is only within me, that it was my reality, and that reality really didn't exist. What does it mean that my reality really didn't exist? It means that we were 30 people in the shul, and I'm the only one who experienced it that way. And if I was triggered by it, then it means that there's something within me that needs to get fixed. Hashem is trying to tell me something, which is what we mean when we say that the only reality we have is Hashem, right? So, and Hashem is trying to tell me about something in the existence in my life, about the existence in my life. And I asked myself, what do I call? What name do I call what the Chazan just did? And the name that I called it is just trying to get it over with. He was just trying to get it over with. Now, I have to tell you that it took a lot of willpower within me when I saw the Chazan to not tell him, like, what was the story? What were you thinking? So, first of all, if I really wanted a slower reading, I could have very well taken my husband's Megillah and sat down, came home and sat down and opened up the Megillah and read it to myself slowly. I could have given myself that experience that I was looking for. I could have given it to myself. And the next thing is, I want to know where just trying to get it over with exists in my life. And I found that it really does exist in my life, because in my life, I create lists of things that I need to do. And we're going to talk about lists today and how they are actually detrimental, and how we need to, we should try to eradicate them from our lives and have them, because we end up being ruled by those lists. Like, I check things off the list, just trying to get it over with. And I realized also that there is, let's say, every morning, my prayer, sometimes it's done. Okay, I need to pray today. Let's get it over with. Let's check it off the list. And let's say, when I pray, then I give myself all the time in the world. We're not running anywhere. We don't have to go. We don't have to prepare a table. We have all the time in the world. The day is in front of us. And I pray in a very different way. And I realized that at times, let's say, I have, I want to clean my house. So, okay, just get it over with. Or I need, or a good daughter. I have a story in my head that a good daughter visits her mother at least once a week, because I live in Tel Aviv and she's Jerusalem. And I go visit my mother because it's on the list that I need to check it off. And the word that I called this Chazan, the name that I called it, that he's trying to, just get it over with and just, check his list off, that was actually a reflection of where I need to introspect within myself and see, where am I going to change that in my life? In the morning when I wake up, I need to be able to, or I want to be able to, cherish my prayer, to realize that it's very special, that I'm making, taking a segment of my day and praying and talking with Hashem and giving time for thinking about, different people and introspecting about different things that are meaningful for me today in the tefillah, because every day in my tefillah, there are different pesukim that have different meanings to me, because every day I'm in a different place. So I want to try to not go to my mother's home because it's, it's something that a good daughter should do. I want to go and relish the time and appreciate the time and give myself the time and just love it and enjoy it. And I want, just the way that I wanted him to read the Megillah, that's the way I need to relate to the various things that I want to do in my life. I'm not saying that I have to do in my life, that I want to do in my life. Now, on Purim, I made mishlochei manot. I made like little bowls of hummus and vegetables, and and chalot, and I went to give it out to the neighbors, not realizing that because I'm in Tel Aviv and most of my building, other than two neighbors, the building is not a religious building. I didn't realize that by Wednesday, people, because they had a long weekend, they went away. They weren't celebrating Purim. They just went on vacation, or Purim was a regular working day for them, so they went to work. And 80% of the building were not home. They were not, I knocked on the doors and people were just not in the house. And I decided that I'm not leaving the Mishloach Mana by the door because I wanted to create like a connection. So that was an opportunity for me to, like, I could have very well been bummed and disappointed and upset, and here I was, and I worked so hard. However, that wasn't the case at all, because I realized that me making the Mishlochei Manot is a part of me that says a lot of good things about me. It's a part of me that wants to connect with people. It's a part of me that wants to give people. It's a part of me that wants to nurture. It's a part of me that is, that wants to shine herself, or, that wants to be able to show the inner part of me to other people. So whether the people were there to receive it or not, it doesn't matter if it happened or not. This was something that I really wanted to do, and I was able to do it, and I did it with pleasure, and I did it with love, and even though it wasn't not reciprocated isn't the word, even though it wasn't acknowledged or it wasn't even known that I wanted to do it, it was still there in me. I didn't lose anything by making and for the people not being there. In other words, all the good in me was able to come out, whether there was someone there to accept it or not. The good in me came into fruition. It was able to express itself. It was that good was able to express itself. So in that aspect of my Purim, there was no avodah to be done because I wasn't triggered by the fact that most of the people weren't home. But definitely with the Chazan reading in a speeding way, I was triggered. And I want to also I want to bring up another point when we are talking about doing mitzvot and doing them fast. I remember like growing up listening to people say, they want to go to the fastest minyan, they want to do the fastest seder, they want to go to the fastest reading, like to do things very quickly as if it's a chore and a burden, and let's just get it over with. And I feel that kind of talk is detrimental for the family, detrimental for anyone who hears it, because our children or grandchildren, when they hear something like that, to them, it makes as if Torah is a burden, mitzvot are a burden, things that take time are a burden. And usually things are a burden when we don't attach, when we don't attach like meaning to it, and we just want it to be over quickly. So I encourage everyone, or I urge everyone, that when they reach something that they just want to get it over with, let them look deeply inside of it. And if you're doing it as if it's a chore, then I feel like the meaning is not so understood. And our avodah is to explore the meaning of what we're doing, so that when we do it, it will be like a pleasant experience, and not and it will be a pleasant experience and not something that we want to get it over with, like getting a shot or taking medicine, or certain things in our lives that we have that are just not so pleasant. Okay. Now, how do we change that, right? We change it by telling ourselves that I'm not doing it because I have to, and I'm not doing it because I was told that I need to do it. I'm doing it because I want to do it. And I'm doing it, and I'm slowly doing it and concentrating. And the concentration is on my internal self. I'm not concentrating on what's happening on the outside, the result, to finish, to get to like achieve the goal. When I am trying to just see the result, so then I am looking at, I'm trying to control outside of me. But what I want to do is my concentration, I want to turn it inwards. I want to pay attention to myself. How am I doing? And what is going on within me when I am when I am, whether it's making my chalot or listening to the Megillah or saying my tefillah or, giving out the mishlochei manot, or I want to be able to pay attention to myself. And I am aware that the issue is not technical, to finish, to do, it's not technical. It's really in the internal. And when that happens, right? When we know that the issue is internal within us, even if there's a big balagan outside of us, we're going to be able to function, because the quiet is internal. The quiet is in our head. And we're not going to need, there's some people that say, like, unless the whole house is quiet and there's no one home and whatever, they can't function. And that means that they need external quiet. But we're able to create internal quiet within ourselves. And then the external quiet doesn't make a difference anymore. Okay. I want to now talk about an avodah that is a little related to what I just started to speak, but it's very, very important. And the avodah is the stories that we say to ourselves in our heads, how to be able to clean out these stories and how to be able to create like a clean, blank, white sheet of paper in our heads, that when it's clean and blank, we're able to allow Hashem to enter our heads, as opposed to the stories that we tell ourselves. So I'm going to start with a small story. I have a friend whose daughter, I have a friend who was trying to figure out what's her emet in the mishlochei manot that she wanted to make. And she realized that her emet is that she would like to make a bag of popcorn and a cupcake and one more thing. That's what she was going to give, something small to many people. And her daughter came to her. And in other words, her decision was not to go out of her boundaries and overdo it, right? To stay within her limits, and to stay within, like when I say not to go over her boundaries, I mean her financial boundaries, her strength boundaries, her capacity boundaries. She has a lot of little children in the house. She wanted to stay within her emet. And she got triggered when her daughter came over to her and said, Ima, we're making these mishlochei manot, but I want to tell you that some of my friends are going to give me very, very mushka. Mushka is very mishlochei manot that they're going to be putting a lot of work into it, and they're going to give a lot of.
Fancy?
I go no, not fancy. Mushka means a lot of
Elaborate.
Investment. Oh yes, elaborate. They're going to invest a lot. Mushka means to invest. Yeah. They're investing so that they're going to give me very, very elaborate mishlochei manot, and I want to be able to go to the supermarket and I want to buy them chocolates. Like, this is too little. I don't want this. This is very little for me. Now, when I was doing avodah with my friend, I told her that many of your kids and many people that day told you a lot of things. And there was one thing that really touched you and was triggered you and really caught your attention. And it's something that stayed in your head, which means that there's some growth that needs to happen in that place. And I want to tell you that it's not about, you doing small mishlochei manot and your daughter coming and asking you, I want to give a bigger mishloach manot. That's the issue. I want to put your daughter aside because that's like a story that I'm telling myself about my daughter, right? I want to put your daughter aside, and I want to work with you with the two parts of you that you have inside of you, because you have a little girl in you that you have a part in you. I'm not saying you have a little girl. You have a part in you that says, I want to be in my strength, to keep within my own budget, to keep, within what I'm capable of, right? That's one part of you. And then there's another part of you that, like your daughter says, you want to give a lot and you want to, buy in abundance. And you also have a part of you that is, wants to endlessly give. And both parts of them are in you. Now, why, when your daughter was speaking to you, you got triggered? We get triggered because it means that both parts that are in us, that are us, are not equal. We look as if one is better than the other. Because if both parts of her, if she was able to realize that both parts, the part that is more the public side that wants to endlessly give. And my friend was saying, I actually went into the supermarket and I thought to myself, I wish I could buy up the whole supermarket and give every single person in my issue a huge mishlach manot. That was a part of me. And there was another part of me that was, I want to stay within my strength, within my budget, within my capacities and capability, right? Those were the two parts. But now in her mind, when her daughter asked her and she got triggered, it's because she believes that buying the whole
to impress others. To impress others.
Oh, not even to impress others. No, not even to impress. Not even to impress. But she believes that part is a higher part, is a better part, is a part that has more of a right to live within her than the part that wants to do it, that wants to give a few people a small mishloach manot. And this is every single one of us. We all have the part that is a more personal, private part, and then there's a more public part. But people usually think that when they give on the outside, that part is more legitimate. So the first thing I was telling my friend she needs to know is that both of your parts are just as legitimate, and they both have a right to exist. And they're both, if you had to give a grade to both of them, they're both 100. They're both 100. Like, I want to be able to also live in this world without giving grades to things. But we usually grade things like this is better than that. Like giving a huge mishloach manot to many people is better than giving a small mishloach manot to a few amounts of people, right? In her mind, she had it that that one part of her is more legitimate than the other part of her. So the first thing that we need to do is create a peace within the different parts of me. And we need to give names that are accurate also to these parts. Right? So I was asking her, I was telling her the first part is you wanting to be loyal to your budget, to your strength. And the second part is I want to go wild and crazy and spoil my whole yeshuv, right? And make mishlochei manot for everyone. So the first one is more constricted, more like to me, and the other one is more like wide open. And that is a battle that we don't only have in mishlochei manot, we have it in many things in our lives, right? We want, to give out to everyone around us, and we also want to reserve things for ourselves. So we need to realize that it is constantly happening within our lives, like public and private. We want to reserve our budget, our strength. Public, I want to think of everyone and buy everything and give everyone, right? And now we need to realize both of them are me. And if I don't recognize that both of these parts are me, like many women come to me and say, I like to spend and my husband is stingy. So first of all, we don't call it those names. I like to spend, my husband is stingy. Now, in me, I have both of those parts also, that I like to spend and also I like to save for me, right? Those parts are within me and I need to recognize it, because if I don't recognize it, then it's as if I'm killing a part of myself. So the first step is to know that both of them are me, and and both of them are good. And I want to reach a place that realizing that both of them are good, and no matter what I choose, right, I am good. No matter what the choice I make, I am 100%. Now, if we are not willing to give a voice to both of those parts, or we think that one part is lesser than the other, then the part that we are trying to make less or put down or not acknowledge or think that it doesn't exist, that part will make itself known through illness, through pain, through sickness in our body. Our body, if we ignore the parts within us, the parts will come out and our body will speak instead of us, right? Our body will speak instead of us, which is why we need to realize that both of those parts are 100. Which is why also, and this is something that we could totally, see in ourselves. Let's say if let's say we see in public someone sitting, everyone is like rushing around and it's a party that people are throwing together, right? And we see one person sitting down, they're not doing anything. So immediately it triggers me because everyone is working. Why aren't they working? And then it's indicative to me that I consider taking care of others and doing for others much higher than taking care of myself. And then if I don't acknowledge that also the taking care of myself is just as a legitimate part, my body will make me take care of myself. My body will become sick. My body will break down. And I don't want my body to speak to me through illness. I don't want that. I want my body to speak to me through health. Okay, so what does it mean that I want them to be equal, the two parts? It very much comes from the pasuk of Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid. I see, Shiviti means Lishabot means I acknowledge Hashem, who's across from me always. Usually it's a pasuk that's put in shuls when they walk in, that I acknowledge that Hashem is in front of me always. Hashem is always there in my life. Now, shiviti, the word acknowledgement, also means shaveh. It means it's equal. It's equal. When we equalize things in our lives, this is just as good as this. This part of me is just as good as the other part of me. Nothing is higher. Okay, so as I said, it's regardless of what I do. Okay. Oh, so shiviti also means to equalize, right? When I equalize both parts in me, right? It means that I'm not trying to show myself to the world. It means that I want to have Hashem shown through me. Let me just, sorry, I'm just gonna put everyone on mute. Okay. Sorry. So great. So we don't have to hit. Okay. So it means that I want God to show himself through me in this world. I'm not trying to show myself, oh, look how amazing she is. Look how great she is. She's doing so much. She's so incredible. Doing things in that way is because I want myself to shine. But really, I want God to shine through me. So those are the places where I really equalize everything within me. And then I'm able to choose something really truly, because they're both equal. They're both the same. Both of them are the same. And it means that whatever I do good, regardless of what I do. And through that, Hashem is going to be seen. Because really, I'm not the issue anymore. It's for Hashem to be seen. Okay, so what do we need to do so that we'll be able to do this process within us? We need to relinquish the feeling that I'm losing something. Because if I, let's say, choose to do the Mishlach Manot, let's say that's very small, and let's say that's what I choose, I can't believe that I lost something by doing it. I can't believe like, oh, I should have maybe done bigger and blah, blah, whatever. I need to relinquish, to let go that I'm losing anything in this world. So one of the avodot, and this is the avodah that I want us to like focus on right now, is that no part of me is coming at the expense of another part. And that way, I can't lose anything, right? I cannot lose anything. Now, I'm going to give an example of a woman that's sitting on the couch and relaxing, right? And that is what she feels like doing. What will cause her to get off the couch? there will be something that will cause it to get off the couch, and that is something is called the stories and fears and movies and imagination that she tells herself, right? There is something that we call chametz. We learned about it last year. Chametz is chet mem tzadik, those letters, that is the acronym of must, chayevet, muchracha, I have to, and tzadik is tzricha, I need to. Like, I must do it, I need to, I have to, right? In our heads, when we let's say choose to sit down, in our heads we have a whole running story of, we need to do this, we have to do that. What are we sitting down? There's so many things to do, and we function as if these stories are real in our world, and they take over our heads. And these are the stories that push God out of our heads. Okay, our eyes, let's say they roam the room. Our eyes roam the room, and we tell ourselves incessant stories instead of telling ourselves fact. And I'll give an example. Our eyes roam the room and we see the dirty sink. And instead of telling ourselves the sink is dirty, what we start telling ourselves, the stories we start telling ourselves is, I can't believe it, they didn't do the dishes, they think I'm a maid here. Why isn't everyone taking responsibility for what they need to do? Why am I the only one doing everything? So those are the things that separate us from Hashem, because we're, instead of saying a sentence and then putting period after the sentence, there are dishes in the sink, right? We start creating movies in our heads. I have a friend that her daughter is not married. So that's a fact. Her daughter's not married. And then she starts with the stories. Is she ever going to get married? Is she going to ever find anyone? Is someone going to ever appreciate her? They're going to ever like her? These are the dimyonot, the stories that we tell ourselves, the imagination that we tell ourselves that separate us from Hashem. Another friend of mine tells me, my son doesn't have a job. He's not working. He hangs around all the time. What's going to be with him? He's never going to have a family. He's never going to, So the fact is that her son is not married. The fact is that her son doesn't have a job at this current. And instead of saying, my son doesn't have a job, period, and leave your mind blank, we start going and talking into ourselves and scaring ourselves and imagining things that really don't exist and don't happen, but I treat them as if they're reality. But the truth is, it's totally not reality. And what do we need to do with those kind of voices and conversations that come in our heads and make us scared and make us, how do you say, they make us dissatisfied. These are the types of stories in our heads that make us dissatisfied. I went into my daughter's house and the house is flying. The sink is filled with dishes and all the toys are on the floor, and everyone took their shoes off and strewn all around. Thank God I have 4 daughters. I could talk about a daughter and no one knows who it is. And so I can go in and say, oh, there are dishes in the sink, period. And instead, I look at everything around me. I look at it in a dissatisfied eye, right? Immediately the dissatisfaction comes up because I start telling myself stories. Is she going to always live this way? This place is like a pigsty. How could she manage? She's teaching the kids the kids are not responsible. No one's doing what they have to do. Why don't they, learn how to put the shoes away? I bought them a big, beautiful basket to just put their shoes in the basket. Don't even put it in the drawer. No one uses the things that, I bought in the house. These are all stories and dimyonot that take us away from Hashem. Now, what are we supposed to do in order to bring us back to Hashem? Our eyes roam around and we see whatever we see. Let's say I see dishes in the sink, period. No more stories about my daughter and the family and the children and what happens. I see dishes in the sink. And now the next question I have of myself is, and what is my ratzon to do right now? And it could be my ratzon is to go and do 10 minutes worth of dishes. It could be that my ratzon is to go and sit on the couch and read my grandson a book. It could be that my son is there, not do anything else but the silverware. In order to stop those dimyonot, those imaginations, the stories that we tell ourselves, our dissatisfaction, we need to look at what is happening in front of us as a fact, put a period after the fact, and then ask ourselves, what is my ratzon at this moment? Now, usually what goes on in my head is that I need to do XYZ to solve all the problems, and I'm running on a treadmill that I believe is caused my dissatisfaction. And I feel that I need to manage everything so I'll be satisfied. But I want us to go to a totally different level than that, a totally different level of looking outside of me and criticizing the outside of me, or creating stories or creating dimyonot on the outside of me and thinking that if I could only manage everything, then I'll be satisfied. I want to reach a totally different level. And this is the level that I want to aspire to. I want us to reach a level that there is no reality. It means when I say there's no reality, I'm able to put a period after the fact and not continue with the sentence. And it means that sentence, because if I continue the sentence, like, oh, my daughter, how's she going to ever learn? Totally irresponsible, always a mess, blah, blah. That sentence becomes my reality. And I don't want to create that sentence to be my reality. I want God to be my reality. So there are dishes in the sink. That's God's reality in the world, period. Now, what do I want to do about it? I have a friend who is sister-in-law making a destination wedding, right? And she's like, I mean, I think I told the story. She's flipping out. Everyone can't come to the wedding. England, far, Israel, expensive, blah, blah. And instead of saying, my sister-in-law is making a destination wedding, period. There are no more stories. And then the question is, what do I want to do about it? Do I want to buy a ticket and go? Can I not afford it? And then I'll be here. Like, that's it. Finished with the stories of how could she and why did she, and she doesn't care about the family, and she's ripping it apart, and she doesn't care about my children. These are all dimyonot that we put in our life that make us be very far from God. It pushes God out of our life because we're saying the reality stinks, God stinks, and I'm totally dissatisfied with what I have in my life, right? We could say, my daughter is not yet married, period. Instead of, and what's going to be, and what's going to happen, and is she going to get married? Is she going to ever work? Is she going to ever get herself together? Is she going to ever, whatever it is, she's going to ever lose weight? Like, all these are not dealing with God's reality in this world. So now what comes after the period, right? When I say, my sister-in-law is making a destination wedding, period. That's reality. My sister-in-law is making a destination wedding, period. That becomes my reality. And then and then the next step of saying my ratzon, that becomes my reality. And if I go on and on with the litany of she doesn't care, and she doesn't like my children, and she doesn't care about family, I create a reality that is harmful for me. And I'm harming myself with my own hands. And why would we ever want to harm ourselves? So we need to take care not to fall into the stories that we tell ourselves, and not to fall into the stories that we hear, even from the outside of us. Because if we fall into the story, into this movie that we built in our heads, all we do is walk around in this world miserable. Okay, I'm gonna stop for a minute, and I'm stopping this for a minute. I just want to ask if anyone has. Okay, so I have a private part and I have a public part, and the minute I want to choose, one side starts scaring me and beating me and saying, how could you? Let's say I have a part of me that wants to stay home and clean for Pesach. And I have a part of me that wants to go and visit my mother, because I tell myself that I would like to visit my mother at least once a week, right? Now, if I tell myself, let's say I tell myself, I would like to stay home and clean for Pesach, there's something inside of me starts to say a good daughter needs to visit every week. You're not worthwhile if you don't do more for your children. How could you not? She expects you. She's waiting for you. She's lonely. What's going to be with her? So I don't want those sentences in my head. I want to be able to have like really a clean sheet of paper in my head. And I want it to be, and I don't want to start arguing and interpreting. And I want my head to be clean with it. Like, I want to be able to see the fact that I want to visit my mother and I want to clean for Pesach. They're both equal. They're both equal. I don't want them to fight within me. I want to choose one and then know that in that is God. In that is God. And what's going to be with my mother? Someone else is going to visit her. She's going to find something else to do. God will take care of her. I'm here to do my emet. I'm not here to play God. I want God to play God in my life, right? I went, and in my Mishlochei Manot, I made veggies and hummus. And very possible, my head could start attacking me. You're only doing this. It's so little. It's so lame. How's it going to look? So all these movies and dimyonot that we have in our heads, they're the ones that are stopping us from experiencing our true ratzon. Okay, so as we said before, there is no reality but God's existence. God's existence is in the facts of our life. And the fact that the fact that I am trying to clean my head means that I just choose to say the facts and then to say my ratzon. Because for me to influence the reality in my head needs to be clean. For me to influence reality, my head needs to be clean. And if it's not clean, then my reality is driven by my dimyonot, by my stories, by the movies I tell myself, and the things that I scare myself with. And it's like lions constantly roaring in my head, and I'm acting from that and not from my true, calm, collected self. So I'm going to go back again. The first level is to say the fact. The first thing is to say the fact. The dishes are in the sink, period. The second second move is to say what I want, what my ratzon is, right? I want to do 5 minutes worth of work. Now, what will happen if I actually succeed in saying a fact and then doing my ratzon with silence in my head, without thoughts grinding and grinding? We're trying to clear our heads of all thoughts. What will happen if I actually will succeed doing that? At that point, I will really see Hashem in my life. It means that even if I make a small mishloach manot, people will see in that mishloach manot a whole lot of abundance, right? Because why? Because in that mishloach manot, I put my heart into it. And that will be delicious. And that will be in abundance. And that's what people are going to see in it. Because that's what I put in it, right? When we are able to see that there's no reality in this world, we'll succeed in seeing that there's room for two. And we'll agree to say our ratzon and allow our heads to be clean, right? What does it mean allowing our heads to be clean? It means sometimes like there's a constant stream of thoughts in our head. We see our husbands coming. Oh, he came in. He just put his coat down. Why did he put it away? Oh, he took a shower. He just left the towel. Oh, he's like, we are constantly talking about our husbands and our children. When are they going to learn? He's so domineering. What's going to be with him? He doesn't care. He's not considerate. He's this, he's that. Like we see, let's say, one child taking one toy from the other. The child took a toy from the other. And then we see the other child crying. Those are the facts, period. We don't need to start a whole litany in our head. He's so mean. He's never going to be socialized. How's anyone going to ever play with him? He's never going to have friends. These are filling our heads with a lot of fog. it creates fog in our minds. It creates like not clean. We create a lot of balagan within our heads, clutter in our minds, all these thoughts. I'm gonna invite this friend, but I didn't invite the other friend. What are they gonna think? What is she gonna think? Our mind becomes cluttered with these thoughts, and there's no room for God, and there's no room for anyone to see God through us. So we see things, we just say the fact, we say period, and we walk around with a clean head. Like my son left his socks on the floor, period. Now, what is my ratzon? Is it to pick it up? Is it to put it in the hamper? Is it to leave it there? What's my ratzon? That's it. A fact, my ratzon. A fact, my ratzon. Because every time I will start with a story in my head, I will create dissatisfaction for myself. Another example of like a friend of mine who was saying that her husband is stingy, right? Why do you say your husband is stingy? They go to her parents' house and she goes, let's buy flowers for my parents. And this husband says, I think it's enough that we're all here. Like, we're coming to your parents' house. Like, we're making an effort to come. I think that's good enough. So now, first of all, the fact that she says that her husband is stingy, it's the way that she chooses to look at it. It's the way that she is interpreting the reality. And she is definitely creating dissatisfaction and misery within herself when she's saying that. Now, if we would actually believe what she's saying, right, then I would start giving her advice, how to manage a stingy husband, how to use one credit card and not the other credit card, how to take cash out so he's not going to know. If I really believe that her husband is stingy, I'll teach her how to deal with a stingy husband. And I'll teach her how to deal with the things outside of her. However, first of all, whenever someone tells us a story on the outside, number one, we don't believe it. It's not true because it's our dimyonot in our heads. It's the way we choose to interpret it. But what we do need to do is we need to bring that story inside of me and realize that there's a part of me that wants to abundantly spend. And there's a part of me that likes to conserve for myself. But because I put the whole stingy part on my husband, it doesn't allow me to acknowledge that. And I don't call it the stingy part. I call it the part that wants to more conserve. There's a part that wants to spend and there's a part that wants to conserve. And it's in every single one of us. So if my friend cannot say that, it means if she can't see that the part of her that wants to conserve, it means that she's not acknowledging. It's as if she took that part of her and buried it deep in the cellar of her house under the foundations. Like, it means that she doesn't even allow it in, right? And if she is not going to be able to see that part of her, she will never be able to see her husband in a true way, because her husband also has a part in him that wants to give, and he has a part of it that wants to conserve. But she's making him all about that he's the conserving one and she's the spending one, and she will never be able to create peace, not within herself and not within her husband, right? So in order for her to come and talk to her husband in a very clean way, we need to acknowledge the part of us that is also that wants to conserve. We need to acknowledge that we have it, that it exists, that it's good, that it's just as equal as the other side of us. And the most important thing, we need to not tell stories about people around us other than the fact. And the fact is, I asked my husband to buy flowers when we went to my parents, and he said he prefers not to. That's it. It doesn't mean he's stingy, and it doesn't mean he can't give, and it doesn't mean that he's not generous. And it doesn't mean anything. It just means that when we went to my parents' house, before I buy, and before I even have the conversation with my husband, I need to realize that those two parts exist within me. Now, I'll just give another example. Like, let's say I'm lying on the couch and my son asks me to drive him somewhere, right? I have a part of me that wants to drive him, and I have a part of me that is choosing to lie on the couch, that wants to lie on the couch. And let's say at this point, both of them are equal within me. Lying on the couch is just as good as driving him. I have a part that does want to drive him. My emet is now to lie on the couch, and I can choose to tell him, there's a part of me that really wants to drive you, and I'm choosing to be on the couch now. No. Hi guys, sorry. I hope you didn't leave. Okay, sorry. I just had a phone call that I needed to get rid of. Right. So I could say with a very hold on 1 minute. Just wanna mute everyone. Okay. I could say with a very clean heart, knowing that both sides are me, that I choose to lie on the couch, but I could also tell my son, but there's a part of me that really wants to take you also, but I choose now to this is what I choose to do now. Okay, now, okay, part of the reason that we don't allow ourselves to equalize those parts and to choose one of it is because I scare myself in saying, if I don't choose the other part, horrible things are going to happen. If I don't, like, let's say I'm going to lie on the couch and my son asks me to drive him. I say, I want to lie down on the couch. My head starts rolling and like, he's going to think I'm selfish. What kind of mother am I? He's going to get a lift with his friend's mother. He's going to think she's a better mother than I'm a mother. Like all these stories that I tell myself that make my choice illegitimate. So I want to reach a level in my life of that I am a choosing soul. I have a bechira. I have a choice to make. And in order for me to be a choosing woman, a bocher woman, a choosing woman, I need to clean my head out and realize that I want to walk in this world light, like lightheartedly, relaxed, above nature, because we need to realize that there's no reality in this world, just the reality that we create, and we could create a reality that's pleasant to live with, that's good to live with, which is why when we create lists for ourselves, and we're going to come to the lists, I look at the list and I'm usually never happy unless I do everything on the list. Only then it's going to be good for me. It's as if the list is ruling my life. So we could approach a list in two ways. One from a satisfied way and one from a dissatisfied way. One, we could look at the list and say, wow, there's so many things to do. I want to take each one at a time, enjoy as I do it. And whatever I do just to be happy no matter what. Because no matter what I do, my happiness is not dependent on what I did on the list or not. Because everything on the list is good within me, right? And the list eventually is going to happen. But what does it mean when I say what's it mean when I say that the good is within me? I could look at the list and think to myself, only when I I have a list of 10 things, only when I do 6, then I'm really accomplished. Then I'm really a good woman. Then I'm a good wife. Then I'm a good mother, right? Or I could say, no matter what I do, the good is within me. The good is not in the list and what I do and blah, blah. And when I realize that and start doing everything that I would like to do, I want to be able to say, I want to do the first thing on the list. And it's as if I'm going to do it as if nothing else on the list exists, only that, to really get into it, to do it with happiness, to do it with pleasantness. I don't want to be driven by any fear, because usually what drives us is fear to accomplish. And if I'm not going to do it, and what's going to happen, it's going to be, and how's it going to be, right? I want an engine with clean energy, like everyone is buying a Tesla. Why are they buying a Tesla? A Tesla is like clean energy, or I think it's clean energy anyway, as clean as electric could get. Like they want something that, will not harm the environment. So I also don't want guilt to drive me, and fear to drive me, and self-flagellation to drive me.
Michal, we lost you.
Okay. Hi, guys. Okay, do you hear me now? Is this?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, fine. Okay, sorry. So what I want to is to be able to get my energy from a clean source of energy, which means it's not going to come in a way of making beating myself, flagellating myself, scaring myself. Oh, you're not up to par. You didn't do so and so. You're not a good daughter. You're not a good mother. You're not a good wife. You're not good enough, because you didn't accomplish what the list told you need to accomplish. You didn't do what other mothers do, etc., etc. We want our energy, our engine to work with clean energy. And I want to go with my ratzon without any fear driving me. So the question, when we have a list, do we look on the list and does it contract us, or does it expand us? Like, do we look at the list and it makes us feel amazing? Who decided this list, right? Who decided the list? Do I look at the list and say, wow, this is an amazing day, I have so many wonderful things to do today? Or do we look at the list and say, oh my God, like, how many things, how the heck am I going to ever do it? And it's such a pain in my neck. So the way we want to approach a list is to be able to look at it, have our hearts expand, look at the list and say, what is my ratzon to do now? And do it as if the rest of the list does not exist, right? We close our heads, we choose something, we close our heads, and we're not thinking about what we do next, right? Because this is the next level I want to build within me. We're building a clean head. I say my ratzon and start doing my ratzon, because I want a clean head, and any sentence I have to say is giving me a part of a story that takes me away from my ratzon. So the prayer that we're going to have from now on is really going to be a prayer of Hashem, help us clean our heads, help us have our energy through clean energy, help us, drive our car with clean energy, and not, I don't want to be driven by all things that create a polluted environment within my life. And at the end of the day, how do you know that you managed to clean the sentences from your head, right? The way you know that you managed is that you're going to have a peace of mind we're going to have a peace of mind in our heads. And that is a lot more satisfying than making the schnitzel on the list and, going through the whole entire list. Is that peace of mind, is the quiet, is the shalom that we have within us, the shalom that comes when we're able to make that peace between both our parts, the shalom that comes when we're able to relinquish all the stories that we want to say, the shalom that comes when we're able to just say about something, the fact, and then what is my ratzon after that.